And so I called my wife up. I was like, honey, if I give my notice today and we lose everything, are we still going to be okay? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give my notice.
Wow.
Then, here we are. It's been working. There's definitely been the grit and the challenges, but there's also been a lot of successes and things that I'm super excited for in the future.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Own the Exit. I'm really excited about the guest that we have for you today. I met Wayne Courreges. We're part of a mastermind together. We met and had a real conversation in beautiful Cancun, Mexico, which was awesome. We were down there for a mastermind event, and he and I just connected over some shared faith values, as well as around the conversation of grit, determination, integrity, discipline, things like that. And Wayne's in a similar industry that Aaron and I are in, and so we thought it would be amazing to have him on the show. He's got an unbelievable story. He's a former Marine Corps veteran and then has made the transition from W-2 into full-time entrepreneurship, taking it by the horns, doing it and building an unbelievable company called CREI Partners, which is a real estate investment company. He's built an impressive portfolio of about 50 million in assets under management. And man, Wayne, it's just such a pleasure to have you here, man. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Caleb. I appreciate y'all having me on and excited to have a great conversation.
Yeah,
man. Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your Marine Corps background. I mean, I always am fascinated I'm always fascinated and inspired by military people. My dad was an 82nd Airborne. And so I'm always inspired to hear the story. What led you to want to go into the Marine Corps?
I don't want to be fact checked on this, but according to my parents, who I trust, and they do a lot of genealogy work and a lot of history in the family, but every major war, probably not every major battle, but every major war our family's been part of outside of the Korean War and World War II. I'm a little surprised World War II, like somehow we didn't get caught up in that. But
yeah,
no, really, my father was a U.S. Marine captain during Vietnam. Not World War II, World War I. We weren't in World War I. World War II, my grandfather served in the Army. And so there's just a lot of history of military. And I remember September of 2002 is when I signed up. I was in my senior year in high school, and I wouldn't graduate until May of 2003. But I technically signed up and joined the Marine Corps in September of my senior year in high school. And at that time, Operation Iraqi Freedom was going on. All my friends and family, they all knew were figuring out college. Myself and I had two other close friends that went to boot camp with me. So I graduated in May and went right in the Marine Corps 2 days after graduation. And it really wasn't. It just felt like something I needed to do to serve. And no regrets. It set the foundation for my life. I'm so grateful for my time. I go by the mantra, not as lean, not as mean, but still a Marine. So yeah. I don't really view, I don't know how the hell I did it, but then it was tough. But I definitely think it set the groundwork, especially now that I've gone full time on my entrepreneurial path. The grit and the stuff that I would say sometimes you forget in the W-2 world, you don't really need it. It's a different type of grit, right? Survival, that type of survival on the entrepreneurial side, and that survival when you're put into a military type setting, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, that's really cool. A lot of crossover. Yeah, I've got friends who have served and just are entrepreneurs now as well, and there's a lot of crossover there with some of those skills getting put in those situations and everything, right? Where it does feel very life or death from a business standpoint, especially starting out in the first few years of business, right?
For sure. And then you got to think in the Marine Corps and the military in general, they're not really looking for entrepreneurs. They're looking for people that are going to go in and follow standard operating procedures, follow orders. There's a time and place to lead, and there's a time and place to follow. So there's some of those things that, I think really set the foundation for my career within a W-2. And then as an entrepreneur is knowing your place at any given time. But as far as an entrepreneurial spirit, it's something that's in you or not, in my opinion. You either have the desire to be an entrepreneur. And this past week, I was at a conference, strategic coaching, and I'm surrounded by these entrepreneurs. And I'm thinking to myself, man, I feel like I'm in an episode of X-Men. Like it's just all these like people with superpower, because the majority of people, and there's nothing wrong with this, just entrepreneurs are just a little different breed, especially when you start talking to them, because the risk, we just handle risk and stress quite differently. And it's a blessing and a curse, right? So we can definitely go on it, however, which way you want to go. But the Marine Corps was a great setup for me. I bought my first single family home as a rental when I was with 1st Tank Battalion in 29 Palms.
Okay.
So I was PFC, barely making anything, but I bought a 2-bed, 1-bath in the desert of 29 Palms. and so that sort of started setting the stage. And then when I got out of the Marine Corps, I joined CBRE. They were hiring former military officer types. I was not an officer, I was enlisted, but I had my degree, which I had earned during the Marine Corps. And I just was hungry for an opportunity to join CBRE in commercial real estate. And so they made the exception and hired me. And that spanned 16 years. Within that 16 years, though, so I left June of 2023, but I started our investment company in 2019. And so it took a few years of building up the company before I was feeling like it was time for me to just go all in and see if we can continue growing this.
Yeah. Did you have like any kind of benchmark or goal that you set when you started your company of what you needed to get to before you would actually exit the W-2?
No, man, but I just got goosebumps because, man, so this is so good because I joined a mentorship program. So part of the reason why I got into multifamily and to begin with was because it didn't compete with my day job. CBRE focuses heavily on office, industrial, retail. And so multifamily, I was able to do multifamily and still keep my day job because they didn't really compete with each other. So I was having to do that. But as I got my mentor through multifamily and I was really learning, I'm like, man, this is mind blowing. This is the asset class that, one, I want to invest in, and two, like we don't have the major ups and downs that say office and retail. And even though multifamily struggled a little bit over the last few years, really it's a small percentage of the overall multifamily has struggled. And at the end of the day, people need a place to live. Like from an office setting, retail, I just saw the ups and downs through multiple economic cycles. And so I just became really bullish on multifamily. But to answer your question, why I even got goosebumps just a moment ago is because part of that process within my mentorship program is creating a vision board. And that vision board wasn't about leaving my day job. I really enjoyed working for CBRE. The people there were great. I was a director. I was a leader making good money, providing for the family, good insurance, all that stuff. But my vision board at that time was I wanted extra $4,000 in income. So that came through like asset management. I wanted to, and I'm trying to think back, it's been a while. I wanted to take my family on a Disney cruise. I wanted to get down to 230, which I've yet to even come close. But I did do easily the 4,000 monthly income and did the Disney cruise. More date nights, been able to do that. So there were things on that vision board. But that was really the focus when I came in, was what vision did I have over those next, couple of years?
Yeah.
And we're doing this recording in December, but I'm going to be doing a vision board for 2025 soon. And it really does set you up. But my point in joining or doing a real estate investment company was not to leave. It really just got to a point in June of 2023 where I was showing up for work and all I was thinking about was my real estate investments. And then I was trying to do my day job because I was trying to do a good job there. And I was like, man, I just can't focus on both. My mind is all in on CREI Partners. And so I called my wife up. Y'all love this. Like I never really talked to my wife about leaving my day job. We maybe talked a little bit about it, but it was not on our forefront of our mind.
Yeah.
And I called her up and I was like, honey, if I give my notice today and we lose everything, are we still going to be okay? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give my notice.
Wow.
And so I gave my 3-week notice. I gave it 3 week instead of 2 week. I was trying to be a good person to give a little more notice. I gave my 3-week notice and here we are. It's been working. There's definitely been the grit and the challenges, but there's also been a lot of successes and things that I'm super excited for in the future.
I like how your vision board includes a lot of life kind of goals too. Because I just feel like with new, you just see a lot of that stuff like where people are like, oh, we're doing all these like life experience. It's not like that when you first start out as an entrepreneur, though, at least not for me. It's just work. But then you get to a point where you can like, oh, this is cool. Like I want to try to be, and you realize you want to be more well-rounded. But it seems like you did that like from the beginning where you're like, hey, I want to do this stuff with my family. I want to have my wife on board. I want to do these experiences like going to Disney, and then I have like financial goals too. I think that's cool because you don't see that a lot from like new entrepreneurs, but I feel like because you already had a foundation of the military and then working for 16 years, so it's not like you were new to life, right?
Yeah, there's different chapters in life, right? For me personally, I've got 3 kids, my wife, and 2 dogs. I have 6 cows, 6 chickens. I got a lot of mouths to feed. And so like the idea of just jumping like, hey, tomorrow I'm going to leave I left knowing that, hey, we had built enough income through our asset management fees. We had a property under contract, so I knew we were about to do an acquisition. I was working on a development with storage in Bryan College Station. Build it. There's the idea of the entrepreneurship of everything is full risk, going in day one and just lighting it on fire and seeing if it works out. Like that was not my risk profile. Was like, hey, I'm going to sacrifice for however many years. And remember, and I truly mean this, as I wasn't thinking about leaving W-2. I was hoping to do both. But at the end of the day, like you just build a company to a point where you have to it becomes your baby. It's like almost to a point where if your employer came to you, be like, hey, you have to choose between us or your baby, like you're going to choose your bababy. Like when you've spent that much time, resources, money, et cetera, into your company. I was starting on our couch. My wife showed me a picture. I was doing my first podcast in our game room. I had this little cabinet, but a little dresser, had my laptop up. It was during COVID and I'm doing podcasts. And I'm like, man, this is just, maybe it wasn't during COVID, but definitely during that time, I'm in this little room with no windows, just grinding it out as best as I could. So yeah, but that's always been me too, Aaron, is the idea of my why being family and the experiences and the community. And then the tool for me has been commercial real estate. Yeah. And so the concept or the belief of, hey, for me, what do I want people to think of me just while I'm living and after I'm living? And I'm definitely a planner, and I've got everything planned out for the day I die and all. But part of that is, hey, what's the legacy I want to leave behind? And it really has, maybe I'm weird, I don't know, but it's all been more about experience and give back. And commercial real estate just happens to be the tool that gets me there. Plenty of people listening to the show that may have other careers, whether teachers or doctors or engineers or truck driver, it doesn't matter, right? It's whatever you're passionate and enjoy. And that's the tool to live the life that really matters. Yeah. And people either figure that out in their 20s, 30s, 40s. They'll figure it out at some point and adjust from there.
Yeah. I love what you said when you first started. Your wife showed you the picture of you sitting in a windowless room, just grinding. I feel like that's like the ultimate picture of a startup entrepreneur. I've been in that picture. I've been at my laptop, windowless room in a basement, just grinding.
And that's why, like, my employees, like, I give them now, like, they all have window. It's almost like your kids, like the things that maybe you and I struggled with. Yeah. And I don't know your personal background, you growing up, but like, my parents did a good job, but my kids have it so much better than what I did, but they have no clue. So like I look at my employees, I'm like, man, you have no clue how good y'all have it.
You guys have windows.
You guys have windows.
Okay, you get windows. I talk about, to me, it's important to have good work-life quality balance. So anyway, we started in the movie room, this little IKEA couch that was super uncomfortable.
Oh man. You're building this business. You've obviously had a tremendous amount of success, right? You've got 50 million plus in assets under management. You've got employees. You're working it full time, but financial freedom is the goal of most entrepreneurs, right? Yeah. Having the ability to determine their level of active involvement related to their income. So what's your end game? What's Wayne doing 5, 10, 15 years from now?
Yeah, financial freedom sounds great, right? From an entrepreneurial standpoint. But for me personally, all my money goes into growing the company. So I mean, like, we invest in our deals. So yeah, there is definitely wealth through that piece. But I joked with one of my team members. I'm like, hey, and so many people, entrepreneurs are going to probably relate to this. I really want a pool in my backyard. I really want that. And I could easily get that. But I'm like, nope. It's time to double down. It's time to do a mastermind or hire an employee or let's get some office space. And so it's been really, this is the time and stage where it's like reinvesting, just like you would in your own personal financial investments, right? Or like the compound, get distribution, invest it back in, and over time it grows. My point in all that is I'm not even doing this to step away. I hope I never step away because my mind and my passion's in commercial real estate. And so when you find that, whether it's real estate or starting a flower shop or whatever that is, like when you show up for quote unquote work, I don't know, it doesn't feel like work to me. I really enjoy what I do. So it's not for me a means to an end. What I do love is being able to provide back to the community. I love to support my family. I love providing jobs. I like last week, one of our team members, she just joined us. And so she's about to be eligible for a 401k. And so the 401k, she had no idea what really a 401k was. Maybe she had heard it in college and stuff, but she didn't really understand it. And the compounding of impact of, hey, if you invest now over 40, 50 years, like these little investments that you put in 6 to 10% of your salary, you're a millionaire. And right now, a millionaire 30 years from now is going to be different than the millionaire today, but at least you've got money and that you're saving. The whole idea of a 401k is bad or all these, I don't believe that. I think diversification, but also just the process of investing. Yeah, it's huge. So I love being able to pull up on the whiteboard and be like, okay, let's do a calculator. This is what you make now. This is what you do by investing. And oh, by the way, if you were to leave this job or say whatever, like you can roll that over to a self-directed IRA. And then this is how our investors are investing with us through their self-directed IRA, because a lot of them had a corporate background and built up a 401k. So we start talking investments and stuff. So I have a passion for that. Wealth will come naturally. And on paper, I look pretty good. But reality is like cash wise, it's going into investments or it's going into our business. So the idea of me getting to a point where I'm like, oh, I'm just going to step away completely. It's just not even my world of thinking, because I hope to be doing this till 80, 90. I don't know. I just like, what else would I do? Caleb, Aaron, I have a question for y'all. If you had all the time in the world, like you're real estate guys, like if you had all the time in the world, like what would you be doing? If you had all the money in the world, so that means you had all the time in the world. Like for me, I'll just answer real quick. For me, it would be real estate. I don't know anything different than real estate. Obviously spending time with family, but like there's never a time in the world where I'm like, I'm not going to be doing real estate. So anyway, I asked y'all a question. I don't know if that's okay, but
it absolutely is, man. I can answer. I think I would do a lot of the same things that I do now, just with less pressure for them to always have to have the best outcome. I always have to have the perfect outcome. I think just as men in general, I'm sure there are women that are wired similarly, but as a man, I just think I'm wired to be in the woods with the bow. You know what I mean? To go out and bring in a harvest every day, regardless of how much is already in the fridge. I'm just wired to need to go out and do it. Like it's part of how I'm designed. And so I think the idea of financial freedom has, for me at least, has always been, it's less about not working and more about being able to just get money out of the way so that you can, because work is not, for me, is not really about money primarily. That's a great way of keeping score of how well I'm doing. But at the end of the day, like it's about being productive, adding value to the world, adding value to the lives of other people, finding a sense of can actively impact and influence something and see it go from a raw piece of land to a beautiful asset and know that I had a small part in making that happen, like that kind of thing. So for me, I'm like you, I don't necessarily want to have to work forever, but I don't know that I'll ever stop. At least maybe slow down, like you said, take a few more vacations, that kind of thing. But yeah. What about you, Aaron?
Yeah, I think same as what you said, Wayne. I think just like adding value, I like that. I like being able to add value. I like being able to work with people. I think that not working means that I don't get to work, like I don't get to do that interaction with a team anymore
Yeah.
because I wouldn't be part of a team. If I just stopped working, then it would be like, all right, where do I fit now? Do I just sit at home? And so I think for me, being part of a team and having like different people involved in different roles and stuff, that's the part about business that kind of always has interested me is I don't have to be the person that's doing all the work but I like being involved and then just seeing people grow into it's just like investing financially. I like investing in people too, because I feel like from having employees, it's the greatest asset that any company has, or the people that are there. And I think I would always be working too, to some extent. Yeah. So that's my answer. We'll always be working to some extent.
But it's not working. You're just doing what your passion is. And I think that's the thing about financial freedom is if you think about all the money in the world, what you would be doing, and those listeners, what would you be doing if you're going to be doing what you love and hopefully what you're already.
It's like asking Tiger Woods if he's still going to golf.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like later in life, it's like, hey, you don't have to, you're retired. You're going to still golf? It's like, yeah, I'm going to golf like forever.
But there's also a mentality too on the financial freedom piece that if I just lived off my asset management fees and didn't want to grow the company and maybe did one deal if I had to, but even if I just did nothing more, just lived off my income, like I'm financially free. Like our expenses are not that crazy. Mm-hmm. So if you're making say $3,000 a month and your expenses are $3,000 a month, like you're financially free. Maybe you need an emergency fund for those days, but you don't need millions.
Right.
That's my point on like financial freedom. Like it really, if you have income coming in that offsets your expenses, like technically you're financially free.
Right.
For us, and as I'm saying, like when I smile about like financial freedom, that day will come. It could come today, but I purposely have not made that because, I'm adding an employee. Well, now I'm feeding multiple more mouths. And then I'm also have more expenses and such. But hopefully what I'm hoping to build is a company that goes further than my life. And whether that's one of my kids taking over or one of my employees down the road taking over, like I'm young, I've got many more years. Like I said, I would love to do this until my 90s. There's no like deadline of, hey, I want to retire because I love the Tiger Woods concept. Like he's going to be golfing as long as he can. So anyway, that's my thought on financial wealth and then entrepreneurial in general. It's just, again, goes back to the X-Men mentality. Like we're just bred differently to be this way. I don't know. It's just how I operate at least.
When you were so I just wanted to chat about what kind of drew you to multifamily, right? With being with CBRE, you said they focus on offices and retail and stuff. What is it? Number one, what is it about multifamily? Why did you go toward that? And then you've mentioned asset management fees a couple of times. Mm-hmm. How does that kind of factor in to your business model? Because a lot of like multifamily operator, the asset management fees a lot of times are just a small trickle. And so I'm curious how you've structured that to be able to, it sounds like you can keep the lights on with those fees and it takes some pressure off for doing future deals and stuff like that.
Yeah. So the asset management fees, I'll start there. That keeps the lights on. I mean, that when times are tough, you want that. And you want, as an investor, you want to make sure that there is some fees going into the company, because what you don't want is the company having to do nothing but acquisitions to survive. And now asset management fees typically are 2% of gross revenues. And so there's a carrot there to obviously grow the revenue, not only for the investors' wealth from a distribution standpoint, but also there's a carrot for the asset manager to grow the income as well. You're not going to be able to, you just have one property and be able to sustain life unless your expenses are super low. Mm-hmm. But when you've got 7 or 8 of those and they're all bringing in, as you said, a trickle, like that trickle adds into a decent drip and potentially a flow from a water vision standpoint. But that at least keeps the lights on. And again, going back to, hey, if we're growing the business, we do close on deals, we'll get an acquisition fee or we'll get a development fee. And those fees are really to grow the company. It takes care of the investor base. Like we recently hired a full-time investor relations person. And that person is there to support and nurture and educate investors, both existing and future. And it's hard when you're a startup company, all the hats, and everyone's going to, whether it's real estate or whatever business, all the hats are on one person. That's fine in the beginning and maybe for the first few years, but eventually you have to expand so that way you can focus on the money making, big strategic things that are important for your business and your investors, and try to pass off some of these other things. Investor relations is such a huge aspect to our company that if I'm all focused on acquisitions and asset management, who's focusing on the investors and taking care of them and being part of that hospitality experience that we're hoping for? And adding on, the reason why I really, again, just being transparent, I got into multifamily because it didn't compete with the day job. But as I was getting into multifamily and really, and this was a pretty fast aha moment, maybe within 3 months of seeing, because I had owned real estate single families before, right? And you think about, instead of having one single family, you could have 100 units, and say the break even on 100 units is, say, 70 units leased. So maybe you need 70% to break even. Well, on a single family, you need 100% to break even, right? So it's like the ideas of the scaling and the tax depreciation concept, which I had been with CBRE for all these years and didn't realize that, one, people like you and I and other family members, et cetera, could pool our money and partner to do these type of big deals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even somebody like myself had been in the industry so long, I was only dealing with MetLife, Invesco's, JP Morgan's, TIA Cref, like these big institutional clients.
Yeah.
And so like my world was in the institutional world, not realizing like, hey, I can go buy this. So once I had those aha moments, and then I started digging on multifamily, loving the feeling of building a community, helping turn around communities, I got really passionate. What I love right now, there's a lot of people leaving multifamily because it's hard. Entrepreneurship is grit and hard, but like multifamily is tougher than maybe the last few years. But there's a lot of people going to ATMs or car washes or these other things. I'm like, please, y'all go to that, because it's less competition and more opportunities for us to double down on this asset class that isn't going away, that is needed, especially where we live in Texas, where population continues to grow. So anyway, so I've just doubled down on multifamily. We also do large warehouse storage. So I've developed a 20 by 50 storage facility. They're all 20 by 50 units. The idea of that came through a partnership in Huntsville, Alabama, where we've partnered and part of the ownership on that deal.
Yeah.
And it's done really well. So we'll continue growing that. And then we're starting to develop now multifamily and retail mixed use. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. And you can't do that when you work full time. So that's my other thing too, is at some point, like if you're going to do bigger deals, like you can't have one hand behind your back. You have to be all in and be able to really grind it every single day
Absolutely, man. And this has been a really great conversation. I think it's super cool, just the synergy, the way you think about it. It's the way Aaron and I, it's like we had these same conversations all the time of the things that you're saying. But let's jump over into the exit round. It's the last, couple minutes of the episode here. We ask the same 5 questions to every guest. I'm excited to hear your answers to these questions, Wayne. So the first one I'll start is, what's your all-time favorite business book?
Business book right now, my all-time is Speed of Trust, Stephen Covey. No matter what business or what line or family, it all deals with trust. If you've got trust, things move at a faster pace, and it's just a good starting point in any business. Speed of Trust.
What percentage of your current income is fully passive? We ask this to everyone. I already touched on that, but
I'd probably say like less than 1%. Most of we're active in acquisitions and commercial real estate. So I personally don't invest in other people's deals at this point, because right now all of our disposable income is going back into the business, growing the business. And then we also invest on our deals. So on the active side, like lenders, they want to see skin in the game from the sponsors. And so we put it in on the GP side. We don't make a return until the LPs hit their returns as well. So a pretty small balance is actual passive income. We're focused on the active side.
Yeah.
Cool.
What's one thing that you wish you could do more of, but your commitments to your business hold you back?
Things I could want to do more about my business holds me back. I, I'm going to struggle on that one because I have a pretty good life balance. Like I'm about to be Scoutmaster starting in January. I think the business doesn't hold me back. It allows me to do things that I enjoy. I just came back from Los Angeles from a conference, was in Louisiana at one of our properties. Prior to that, I was in Florida, spending time with our family for Thanksgiving. So the business, I would say if the business is controlling the life, there's got to be ways. For us, it was hiring people, but also being in control of my own time. So the business doesn't really control what we're doing.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Very cool.
And part of that too is third-party management, but we don't actively manage day-to-day tenants, toilets, or termites. Like this afternoon, I've got 4 asset management calls. So we do those weekly, but the day-to-day stuff, we third party. So we structured our business in a way where we do have time to do what we're focused on.
Yeah, that's awesome.
If you could go back in time, what advice would you give yourself about building a business?
If I go back in time, I'd probably have done it earlier. When I left, I was 38. And so part of that was like, hey, if this doesn't work out, I have plenty of years to come back. But I had been thinking about entrepreneurship for many years. And I probably would have started a little earlier. But at the same time, I had family and such. I don't know if I would have been able to do it as much. But I also would have learned more about passive investing in commercial real estate while I was a W-2. Remember, guys, like didn't even realize I could invest until 2019 when I started my business. I thought REITs and stocks. I was definitely of the herd mentality of 401k. Like we invested, and that's fine. But once you start learning about other things that you can invest in, I probably would have hopefully have learned that a lot sooner.
Yeah. So give us a couple of strategic tips for our audience on maybe some strategy that you've employed for creating more time freedom and financial freedom for yourself, for your family.
So I think it's all goes into the mindset. And I have a mindset coach, and I'm definitely guilty of days waking up with anxiety and such, but realizing like your mind controls that. And so once you start realizing that your mind has power, your mind can control the thoughts. And even though sometimes it's difficult, especially when things seem like it's all going to be out of control, like trying to get into what I call Wi-Fi mode. Like when you're at the strongest internet connection, like you're in full go mode, right? On whatever task you're doing. But as you start stepping away from Wi-Fi, your internet starts getting slower and you get more frustrated. You start getting a little bit more like things happen. So like when things seem tough, because for us entrepreneurs, like today could be a great day, tomorrow could be a kick in the gut. It's okay, let's get back into Wi-Fi mode when I start seeing my mind go over. Another thing too, I just heard this at this conference this weekend, but we started it last night, is it's this go big mentality. Go when it's like be in gratitude, and think about gratitude in the sense of if you ask your kids, what are you grateful for? And they're not sure. And you're like, man, you got all the things that I didn't have to be grateful. But instead talk about experience. What experience were you most grateful for in the last week? And you think about it on a business side too. And you start to get more in that gap and the gain. It's just, again, mentality of just being grateful, positivity mindset, no matter where you are on the cycle of wealth and business growth. If you're always in the gratitude mindset, which is hard, I know, but if you can be in that gratitude mindset and you can be in the Wi-Fi mode, clear mindset, there's nothing that you can't overcome.
That's really good, man. Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's super powerful. I think it resonates with me for sure, and I'm sure resonates with a lot of our guests. Wayne, it's been awesome getting to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, man,
I really appreciate you taking the time and showing up for the episode here.
Yeah, Aaron, Caleb, thank y'all for your time, and excited to see y'all soon. And if I can do anything for you, let me know.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Yep. Thanks, Wayne.
All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Own the Exit. If you enjoy the show, if you enjoyed this episode, just share it with some folks who you think it would add value to. Go ahead and make sure you follow us on YouTube and subscribe there. That would be awesome. We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.